There are 339 books in the Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge, and I'm going to read all of them, and I mean every single last one of them. The Reading Challenge includes all of the books that Rory Gilmore read or talked about during the run of the highly popular mid-2000s TV series Gilmore Girls. Now, to put an additional spin on the challenge, I'm going to read the books in random order, so stay until the end of the video where we spin the wheel to find out what our next book in the challenge is going to be. Now today we have one of my absolute favorites as book 5 of the challenge, and that is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. As I did mention, there are very few books that I did read before the challenge, and that is one of it, so I did a reread for this video. As always, please do let me know in the comments below where Rory Gilmore showed up or talked about this book in the TV series Gilmore Girls. Now, book 4 in the series follows Harry Potter and his friends during their 4th year at Hogwarts, the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where he has to enter the Triwizard Tournament, an international tournament where he is competing throughout the year in increasingly dangerous tasks against students from other international schools. And this is happening at the same time as Lord Voldemort is slowly reaching and regaining his strength, as well as the kids now being in their early teens, slowly starting to navigate puberty and everything that comes with it. So unless you're an absolute Potterhead, you may have been thinking what kind of version I'm holding here of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So this is a first edition version of the German version of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. It came out in 2000, in October 2000, and the first printing was around 1 million, which was a huge amount for that time. I guess it was a record. And you know, I always love seeing the different Harry Potter covers and the illustrations and the different, you know, imagination that the illustrators had during that time. So, you know, for the German versions, I always very much liked the design. I love the Harry Potter design. His character looks absolutely amazing on here. And it's always interesting to see all those different Harry Potter covers. So, but you know, let me know what your favorite book covers of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire are. I would love to see more of the book cover art in different languages. So what I also find interesting with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is that it's just so much thicker than its previous first stories. And I think a lot of it also has to do with, you know, book 3 rising to mainstream popularity. And then with book 4, there was a lot more decision power in terms of what edits have to be made and what does not have to be made. That stayed with J.K. Rowling. So I think from this book on, she was able to keep everything in the book that she wanted to keep in, whereas book 1, 2, 3, I believe there were a lot of things that she had to edit or scrap because it was getting too long. So Harry Potter as a whole has a very big place in my heart. I grew up with Harry Potter. I read the books as soon as they came out, and you know, getting hooked on Harry Potter is basically what brought me into reading. I never liked or enjoyed reading before reading Harry Potter. So I really do credit Harry Potter as being the series for and the reason for why I love books so much now. And also the reason I'm holding the German book here is because I believe until book 6 in the series, I was reading everything in German. And then when book 7 came out, I didn't want to wait for the translation. And then at that time, I don't know how they are doing it now, but at that time, there was like a gap of almost 3 months between the original English version and when the German translated version would come out. So book 7 in the Harry Potter series was one of the very first more complicated novels that I fully read in English. So Harry Potter also very much helped me in my English learning from very early on. And after that, you know, I've gone back to the series many times over the years, and I've read it in multiple languages up until now. I've read it in French, I read it in Mandarin Chinese, I've read it multiple times in English as well, but I've rarely gone back to the German versions and the German translations. And now rereading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire for this challenge, I did go back to my original German version because it's the only hardcover book that I do have of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And it's brought back a lot of beautiful memories of reading Harry Potter in my room at 11 while, it was raining outside. So it was a very enjoyable reread for me and experience. I also have to mention that not only did I get into reading through Harry Potter, I also got into listening to audiobooks. I still, up until this day, absolutely love the Stephen Fry version of the Harry Potter books. They are so enjoyable to listen to. I absolutely love his voice. So every now and then I also go back to these audiobooks and do a re-listen of it. Also, at some point, I'm planning to do a deep dive on Harry Potter and the whole series and universe on this channel, but that has to be well prepared as I'm very much aware of how enthusiastic the Harry Potter community is on YouTube. Now, Goblet of Fire, I've always seen very much as a turning point in the series, as it opens up the universe a lot. So before it was always very limited to England and to Hogwarts, and now with number one is we start with a Quidditch World Cup, so that opens us up to the idea that there are wizards all over the world. There is wizarding education all over the world, and they are not just limited to the UK. And also with the Triwizard tournament, with the schools of Beauxbaton and Durmstrang coming to Hogwarts and having this international tournament, this tournament of the free schools that just opened up the world by so much of Harry Potter. And I do believe it's also a little bit of J.K. Rowling by this point. It's become mainstream Harry Potter, and she is trying to, I would say, almost pander to the audience a little bit. People and kids all over the world could start to identify with magic and could think that, okay, there may be a school close by to me as well. As this is probably one of the first books that J.K. Rowling has been able to react on how the progress and the success of the series has been so far, it also introduces other encounters or other experiences from her own life now into the series. One of the very famous example here is Rita Skeeter, who is a writer for the Daily Prophet and who is basically the embodiment of paparazzi as J.K. Rowling sees her, which is why Rita Skeeter is this super annoying character that is just bothering people all over the place, basically. Now, as much as I love this book, I always felt that Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire has one of the larger plot holes in the series, and that is one that I don't think is talked about often enough. And it is the reason, the question of why Harry Potter had to continue with the tournament. Why can he not just quit the tournament and not take place in it? And the reasons given for it are very, very lackluster, I would say. So it's usually either one of the two reasons. Sometimes it's mentioned, well, it's written in the rules of the tournament. It's written in black and white. It's the rules. They just have to follow it. And then the other reason that sometimes is given, it's, the Goblet of Fire is or consists of a magical binding contract that you cannot get out. But the problem here is with both these things, there is never any reasoning given as to what the consequences are if you would just simply not do it. Like, what would happen if Harry Potter would just not join the tournament, or if the teachers or Dumbledore would just say, okay, this is too dangerous, you're just not going to join the tournament, we are going to let the three others battle it out that are of age, right? And the reason I find this a rather big plot hole is because everything else in this universe and with the magic is well established and always well explained. Like, for example, if you take what's a little bit later in the series, if you take the unbreakable vow, it's very well established and clearly explained, okay, if you do break the unbreakable vow, you're just gonna die. But here there's no consequences given, there's no reasoning given. It's just like, okay, Harry Potter has to join this tournament for the plot to work out. What do you guys think about that? I always wondered, as I don't see this point discussed a lot. What's also new and interesting in the 4th installment of this series is that the kids now, most of them in Harry's year now, being 14, slowly starting puberty, there are themes introduced, like first romantic interests and stuff like this, especially with the Yule Ball, where they have to go through the anxiety of finding a dance partner, for example, which is very interesting. It never plays too big of a role of the book, but it's still there because as any normal kid or any normal teenager, they are now, experiencing these new feelings and going through these things. So I think it's very interesting that that is a part of the book, and I think it's very well done here. And another thing that is a first in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is that Harry Potter and his best friend Ron Weasley have their first big fight. It's mainly due to jealousy from Ron towards Harry, because Harry is always the chosen one, and now there's this tournament, and again Harry is the chosen one that gets to take part in it. So it comes from jealousy, but it also comes from a place of puberty as well, and growing up and having those feelings and being less able and capable to control these new feelings. So that leads to the first big fight. And then, of course, with Harry Potter, each book is getting increasingly darker, and the Goblet of Fire is no exception to this rule. So with new themes like the suppression of the house elves and what that means and how it can translate to the real world, and with Hermione trying to fight against that suppression that has always been there in the wizarding world, there's more and more serious topics and themes that are explored in Harry Potter. And then with the book ending in an actual death of a Hogwarts student, it clearly shows that we are not in a children's story here anymore, and it just gets increasingly more dark as we will continue this story with Harry. So as we come to the rating of this book, as with any Harry Potter book except for The Cursed Child, as far as I'm concerned, is not canon, it's fan fiction. I hate it. It's just not Harry Potter. But for all the other books, 1 to 7 of the main storyline, I love all of them, and for me it's a clear 5-star or 5 stars for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I'm very glad that I picked Harry Potter books so early in the challenge here. I believe there's one more book in the challenge. I'm not quite sure which book that is, but we will find out along the way. So what did you guys think of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire? Let me know again in the comments below. And now let's get to picking our next book in the challenge. We have 334 books left in the challenge, and as always I have my wheel here with all the remaining books on it. So let's spin it and see what we get as next book in the challenge. There we go. Let's see something good, hopefully something easy and short. What do we get? What do we get? What do we get? Hamlet by William Shakespeare. So I'm going to read my very first Shakespeare in this challenge. I'm very excited, don't really know what to expect. So in the next video, let's see what Hamlet by Shakespeare is like.